What's up, YouTube? It's your boy C-Dubb. Today we're going to be talking about a terrible, nasty, heinous, deplorable thing: human trafficking inside the Olympics. As always, I ask that you hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell and turn to all if you like this video and want to see more videos like this one.
New charges against the former Olympics doctor, already charged with sexually assaulting teen girls. The feds say Larry Nassar had child porn in his possession.
Steve Penny, the former president and CEO of USA Gymnastics, is in a jail cell tonight in Tennessee. He is accused of hiding or destroying documents at the famed Karolyi ranch and enabling former team doctor Larry Nassar to sexually abuse athletes.
Today we are announcing 24 charges against John Geddert, a former U.S. Olympics gymnastics coach and the former owner and coach at Twistars USA Gymnastics Club, a Lansing area Olympic training facility where Larry Nassar served as the gym's doctor.
Devin, Kimberly, what's alleged goes back as far as 2000, involving athletes as young as 10 years old. We're talking extreme and repeated physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. We should say, and we should warn, that some of what's to follow here is graphic and disturbing.
These allegations focus around multiple acts of verbal, physical, and sexual abuse perpetrated by the defendant against multiple victims.
What a great best friend John was to Larry, for giving him an entire world where he was able to abuse so easily. You two sure do have a funny meaning of friendship. You, John Geddert, also deserve to sit behind bars right next to Larry.
Breaking this afternoon, a former U.S. Olympic gymnastics coach who worked with disgraced sports doctor Larry Nassar has died by suicide just hours after he was charged with sexual abuse, human trafficking, and recruiting minors for forced labor.
There isn't one bone in my body that doesn't hate John Geddert for everything he has done to me in my career.
Today, the USA Gymnastics and Survivors Committee, representing women who were sexually assaulted by former U.S. Olympic and national team physician Larry Nassar, filed a reorganization plan with the U.S. Bankruptcy Court Southern District of Indiana that proposes a $425 million settlement with more than 500 survivors who allege they were sexually abused by Nassar. Nassar was the team doctor of the United States women's national gymnastics team for 18 years, which gave him access to hundreds of girls and young women whom he sexually abused. He is also a former osteopathic physician and a former professor at Michigan State University College of Human Medicine. Nassar's sexual abuse of young girls and women and the subsequent cover-up ultimately led to the U.S. gymnastics sex abuse scandal that began in 2015, alleging that Nassar repeatedly sexually assaulted at least 265 young women and girls under the guise of medical treatment. His victims included numerous Olympic and United States women's national gymnastics team gymnasts. Nassar was sentenced to 60 years in federal prison on December 7, 2017 after pleading guilty to child pornography and tampering with evidence charges on July 11, 2017. Court documents showed that he had computer disks, electronic files, and other material with thousands of images of child pornography. On January 24, 2018, Nassar was sentenced to an additional 40 to 175 years in Michigan State Prison after pleading guilty in Ingham County to 7 counts of sexual assault of minors. And once again, on February 5, 2018, he was sentenced to an additional 40 to 125 years in Michigan State Prison after pleading guilty to an additional 3 counts of sexual assault in Eaton County. The Eaton County sentence will run concurrently with the Ingham County sentence. On the orders of the judge in charge of the federal case, his state prison sentences are to run consecutively with his federal sentence, amounting to a sentence of de facto life imprisonment without parole. In a 2014 police interrogation, you can see this sick bastard trying to blame victims for misunderstanding their treatment.
Just do it. You know, you talk to the patient, you tell them what you're doing, you do it. You know what I mean? If I didn't say it, if she was, did she miss it? I don't know. Did she not understand what I was saying? Like, this is what I'm going to do, and it didn't compute to her? That's possible too. In other words, like, you know, did I say, okay, I'm going to do this, and it didn't register to her what I was going to do? I don't know. okay?
And in another 2016 police interrogation, you can see him trying to explain away why he might get an erection during his so-called treatment.
To clarify, you're saying that during these treatments where you're dealing with young to old teenage girls who are very physically fit, very attractive, that you don't get aroused when you're touching. I mean, you're essentially touching their genitalia, touching their breasts.
I'm not purposely trying to get arousal from doing any treatment. I mean, come on. You know what I mean? I'm not purposely trying to gain some type of sexual gratification out of doing that. That's not what I'm doing. Okay, if there was arousal, it would be because of whatever, I don't know, but I'm not trying to,
I don't know. I don't know.
When you're a guy, sometimes you get an erection, you know what I mean, but I don't,
you get an erection when you're aroused.
You can't even imagine how the victims and their loved ones felt about this guy. That's why it's not surprising that during one of his court hearings, a father of 3 of the victims charged at him in the courtroom.
Well, I'm going to have to get something on. Stay down. I understand. Let me have it, son of a bitch. I understand.
Now at this point, you may be asking, what does all this have to do with human trafficking? Well, that's where this guy comes into the picture. John Geddert, who was the head coach of the 2012 gold medal U.S. Women's Olympic team. He retired when he was suspended by U.S. Gymnastics in 2018 after being implicated in the U.S. Gymnastics sex abuse scandal centered on his longtime associate, Larry. Geddert took the coward's way out when he killed himself this year, shortly after being charged with 24 criminal charges, including 20 counts of human trafficking of a minor, 1 count each of first-degree criminal sexual assault, second-degree criminal sexual assault involving a minor, and lying to a police officer. It has been said by a former gymnast that John and Larry were best friends, and many former gymnasts have described Geddert's coaching style as intense, strict, and abusive. Several former gymnasts have recounted that John repeatedly told them to kill themselves. He was known to throw items in his gym when he was angered. On one occasion, John shoved a gymnast forcefully enough for her to sustain a black eye, ruptured lymph nodes in her neck, and a torn muscle in her stomach. In 2013, John was under criminal investigation for his abusive treatment of gymnasts. The Eaton County Prosecutor's Office stated that there was enough evidence to charge John, but allowed John to seek counseling instead. In December 2013, a former employee of Geddert contacted U.S. Gymnastics to inform them of Geddert's abuse of his athletes. U.S. Gymnastics stated they addressed the letter writer's concerns with Geddert, though the specific actions by U.S. Gymnastics were never made public. Inside court documents, it says that John would make girls perform or practice with broken arms, spines, and legs. It also says that he would frequently yank athletes off of the bar 15 to 16 feet up, causing serious injury. It says he also kept a list of girls called his Fat Club, making them do extra conditioning, and restricting a 12-year-old athlete's diet to just 500 calories a day. Then there was the accusation of sexual assault, described as punishment for perceived underperformance. The accuser was just 14 years old at the time when Geddert followed her into the locker room and assaulted her, telling her this wouldn't have happened if she just completed his assignment at practice. Just like with the Epstein case, there's also some suspicious activity surrounding this case. The Attorney General originally said that John had turned himself into authorities and would be arraigned. But then, after his death, the Attorney General's press secretary said there was some miscommunication prior to the press conference. We were told Geddert was on his way to the sheriff's substation. We later found out he did not turn himself in. Supposedly, when John was a no-show, authorities went looking for him at his home and then later found his dead body at a rest stop. And then you have this guy, Steve Penny. He was the president and CEO of USA Gymnastics from April 4, 2005 to March 16, 2017, and is a key figure in the USA Gymnastics sex abuse scandal. Penny was accused by a former Olympic gymnast of being at the forefront of USA Gymnastics ignoring the abuse of gymnasts. She called for his resignation. USA Gymnastics responded by saying that Penny was a leader in ensuring the safety and well-being of the USA Gymnastics gymnasts. While being questioned under oath, Penny testified that USA Gymnastics rarely forwarded allegations of child abuse to police or child protective services without being asked because of a belief that there was not a duty to report abuse if USA Gymnastics was a third party to abuse allegations, and concern about damaging a coach's reputation if an abuse allegation was false. USA Gymnastics dismissed complaints as hearsay unless they were signed by an alleged abuse victim or a victim's parent. Officials of USA Gymnastics, which is headquartered in Indiana, may have violated Indiana law by failing to report abuse allegations. Penny resigned from USA Gymnastics on March 16, 2017. When Penny testified before Congress in June 2018, he invoked his Fifth Amendment right to avoid answering questions, leading a cry of shame from one onlooker.
Mr. Penny, I respect your right to invoke your Fifth Amendment privilege. You have that right, but you also have a responsibility. You were part of an organization that, in effect, prioritized medals and money over the young women and girls, some of them here today, who were sexually abused by Mr. Nassar. And in fact, in the absence of your testimony, documents will speak for you. We have documents that indicated that as early as 2013, you had questions about Larry Nassar. In fact, in one of those memos that you wrote to Alan Ashley of the United States Olympic Committee, you said, quote, "If Larry Nassar is the gatekeeper, then we have a real issue," end quote. What was the reason that you said that at that point?
Senator, thank you for your question. I would like to answer it. However, I've been instructed by my attorney to assert my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution, and based upon the advice of my attorney, I respectfully decline to answer your question.
On October 17, 2018, the United States Marshals Smoky Mountain Fugitive Task Force arrested Penny. He is alleged to have tampered with evidence during the investigation of sexual assaults against Nassar. The indictment further alleges that Penny ordered the removal of documents from the Karolyi ranch that were related to the activities of Nassar. If convicted, Penny faces a punishment of 2 to 10 years in prison and up to a $10,000 fine. The day following his arrest, USA Gymnastics placed Penny on its permanent ineligible list. Penny has since bonded out of jail on a $20,000 bond and still awaits trial. I must first start out by saying I hope all these men rot in hell. This is some of the most sickening shit I could ever imagine. USA Gymnastics have a huge role to play in all of this. It seems like they helped keep all this shit under wraps for a long time, even ignoring gymnasts' allegations. Then you got Larry, the so-called doctor that was using his status to abuse innocent little girls. I'm glad the judges threw the book at him, but at the same time, I feel like he should have at least been sentenced to life from Jump Street. The psychological strain that he put on his victims was enough to convict him of life without the chance of parole. Just looking at this man makes me feel sick to my stomach, and I hope he gets victimized in prison the way he victimized his victims. Sadly though, he will probably be protected and do his time in protective custody. I can't believe that in his 2014 police investigation, he wasn't charged with any crimes and was able to wiggle his way around the naive police officer. I can't blame that man at all that wanted to maul him right then and there in the courtroom. Who wouldn't if that sick dude did that to your children? As for Johnny Boy, I wish he would have never killed himself so he could sit face to face with his victims in the courtroom. That's even if he did kill himself. There is way too many suspect things surrounding his death. The way he treated them innocent little girls is the way he deserved to be treated in a prison cell. I've never been able to understand how someone can be that vile and take their anger out on little children. And of course he would take the coward's way out and kill himself allegedly. I say allegedly because I really do feel like there's a cover-up going on behind the scenes. The same type of weird shit happened surrounding the Epstein case. On top of all that sadistic shit he put those kids through with making them train with physical injuries and telling them to kill themselves, he was also sexually abusing them. These people are the absolute lowest of the low. If he would have stood trial, there's no telling what all would have came out. As for Steve, he deserves to be right there next to Larry in a prison cell, and instead of doing 2 to 10 years, throw the book at him and give him life as well. He might as well have been there abusing these girls too. He was covering up for Larry the whole time. He has been out here running the streets now for years without going to trial yet. I guess money really does talk. I don't have much faith in the justice system and never really have. They are letting this man walk. And I guess they were just trusting that John was just gonna show up for court? Why wasn't he arrested before they even released the indictment? Or was he? Who the hell really knows? Leave a comment down in the comment section and let me know what y'all think. Until next time.